Henning. Returnable from the 39-yard line. Breaks a couple of tackles. Heading to midfield. Web Spade breaks another tackle. Heading down the sideline. Looking for the pylon after a cutback. He's got a Michigan touchdown.
Michigan off and rolling. The Wolverines not just 3-0, but outscoring its non-conference competition to begin the 2022 season by a total of 166-17. And with that, welcome you inside the Monday Coaches Press Conference edition of Big Ten Live. I'm Rick Pizzo. As always, we have a jam-packed edition for you today on Monday, getting ready for the first true weekend of conference play. 4 conference matchups this weekend, awaiting head coaches like Jim Harbaugh, Mel Tucker, PJ Fleck, Paul Chryst, Greg Schiano. All those men set to face conference competition coming up on Saturday, and we will hear from all of them over the next 2.5 hours. Mentioned the red-hot start for Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines. It was 51-7 over Colorado State. Then it was 56-10 over Hawaii. Then 59-0 over a completely overmatched UConn team this past weekend. And now conference play. For the 4th straight week, Michigan remaining at home. They will host Maryland in Ann Arbor coming up this weekend in a game you can see on Fox. To wrap up the non-con and look ahead to conference play, here is Jim Harbaugh.
Really good playmakers. Quarterback's playing outstanding. Doing a good job protecting him. And he's just they're making a lot of plays. He's making a lot of plays in the pocket, out of the pocket. Overall, it's a really good offense.
JJ talked about throwing the previous game in the ocean and moving forward. Is that perpetual forward thinking something you preach, something inherent to him, or a little of both?
I just think the guys are excited to attack the next challenge, and they're ready for it. They know it's going to be a step up in competition and start of Big Ten play. I think it's more a function of very, very excited for that next challenge.
Chris? Coach Greg Crippen, is there something wrong with him? How many he played the last 2 weeks?
No, there's nothing wrong with him.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. It's just one of those things where there's a possibility of redshirting him this year, and we're gonna see how that goes. I mean, can't predict the future, but if Olu can stay healthy and play in there, then there'd be a shot of getting that year back for Crip, and so that's why he's only played 1 game.
And then can you talk about Olu's progress and what you've seen from him?
Yeah, really good. He had another really solid game. So did Ryan Hayes. So did Trevor Keegan when he was in there, and Zach Zinter and Olu. Trente is continuing to play well as well. So he's playing good.
On the right here, Ryan. With the lighter non-conference schedule you guys face, how have you guys maybe changed up what you guys have done in practice to maybe better simulate the tougher competition you guys will face in the Big Ten?
Just the momentum's been good. The work ethic has been great. Leadership's been great, and it's been just selfless people in the program all around, and that shows up in practice.
Austin, Jim, when you look at the pass protection, a couple of those hits that Kate took, what do you see that needs to get better there?
Both. There's been some times where we've gotten beat on a one-on-one matchup. This game, the game before, you're striving for chasing perfection. But sometimes, probably all the time, you don't get perfection. Hope to attain excellence, and end of sentence.
Jim, piggybacking off that question, I guess when Cade went in with, I think it was 24 seconds left and you were up 38, did you think about kneeling, or what was the thought process behind going through the 2-minute offense?
Yeah, to try to press the ball downfield and get into field goal range.
Aaron?
Speaking of Cade, is there any clarity on the injury and how long he might be out for?
No, not at this point.
In the back, Ryan?
With that said, kind of, can you assess the quarterback battle for that backup spot while he's injured and what you saw from some of the guys who got a chance to play on Saturday?
Yeah, seeing good things. Davis Warren, Alan Bowman, Alex Orji, seeing very good things from them in practice and when they've gotten in the games. I think we have good confidence in all three.
I know you were asked about in the offseason, but Ronnie Bell, what have you seen from him through the first 3 weeks? And was there part of you that wondered if he was going to be the same guy coming back from injury?
Well, you never know for sure, but I mean, yeah, he came back stronger, faster. All the speed and agility, a lot of the speed and agility tests were PRs for him. And I never really wondered about his mindset, and that figured that would be the approach, and it was. The way he's also the way he's blocking is at an elite level. So is CJ, and so is Cornelius Johnson and Roman Wilson, Andrell Anthony. Probably maybe right now, it'd be a battle. Who's our best blocker? But it's showing up in the perimeter game is at a new level for us, and you've seen that in the ball games that we've been playing. But Ronnie's really blocking well and catching the ball and running routes and doing everything he's doing, leading, his work ethic. I mean, he's been selfless. I mean, a great example of what I talked about earlier.
Isaiah?
Keeping the receivers, Roman Wilson really seems like he's taken a big step forward this year. What's allowed him to have the kind of success he's had so far?
I've just been highly motivated. It's been an everyday approach for him. I mean, it really has his focus and determination on being the best he can be has been daily. I do not know for sure if he's taking a day off, but it doesn't seem like it. He's been attacking it at all times.
Ryan?
I had a receiver question as well. Going back after you got to see the film with A.J. Henning again,
Mm-hmm.
what did he bring on Saturday in his versatility and special teams and on offense? I know he also had that carry as well.
Yeah, that's something we've been working on. He's just able to do so much. Just trying to find ways, continue to find ways like we've always have to try to get him the ball. But really evolving as a route runner, his determination as a returner. I mean, he's been outstanding, and just I mean, from where he started last year, first time catching a punt to where he is now, it's so good. And every part of his game, he's hungry and wants to keep getting better and evolving. That's really good.
What do you attribute the lack of penalties to so far this season?
It's been a high emphasis put on it. Just looking at the way example would be, the way the defense hits a quarterback. I mean, every time. I mean, we've had free runners. I mean, they do a great job of keeping it in the strike zone, in the legal strike zone, keeping their head out of it. Mike Samerstel at any guy that's gotten near the quarterback. Just really focusing on the technique and you know, to the best of your ability to, you know, not do your job, but without getting those penalties. Same with hitting defenseless players. Makari Page had a tremendous hit in the game that broke up a pass, but it was, I mean, textbook. Shoulder pad, helmet not leading with the crown, and you know, all those things that are coached and really put into action. You know, those coaching points and the guys being, you know, being able to think in split second and reactions, whether it's you know, taking their hands off of a receiver that's blocking downfield. I mean, just taking the hands off, you know, and just running with one arm. Ronnie did a great job of that in the game. Some of those situations where yeah, it's easy to get a penalty, but you know, feel like guys have been trained and you know, really take those coaching points to heart and put them into action on Saturdays.
On the left, Chris.
Could you assess the job, the impact that Mike Elston's made on your D-line since you've been here?
Yeah, it's been great. I would say Mike's been great. As I said, the leadership, the work ethic, you know, just the selflessness of everybody around the program has been phenomenal. Coaches like Mike Elston, you know, I've talked a lot about you know, Jesse Minter and Steve Klingscale, and Mike's doing a great job. George Hilo is doing a great job. Jay Harbaugh, the offensive coaches, Sharon, Matt Weiss, really doing well, and Mike Hart, Ron Bellamy, Grant Newsom, really happy with how everybody's coaching. But the D-line, you know, is standing out. You know, the best thing about our defense, when I look at them, is just the way guys are getting off blocks. I mean, they're getting off blocks and making tackles. Chris Jenkins had a phenomenal game in this game. So did Junior Colson, Mike Sammers still. Those two guys, Junior and Chris, really played well. Really getting off blocks. Upshaw, you know, getting blocked, making the tackle. Jalen Harrell, setting an edge, getting blocked, and making a tackle. They're the upfront games and twists have been really good. I mean, they work on it every day, and it's fun to watch. 14 guys, I think, have gotten TFLs out of the 18 TFLs that we've had. You know, they're, you know, again, I point to great work ethic, leadership, and you know, selflessness, and really shows up in all phases of our football team right now, in my opinion.
Left, David.
Jim, Blake's development as the primary back came to a head on Saturday with 5 touchdowns on a much lower amount of yards than some of the 5 touchdowns would probably have. How have you seen his development, not just in the speed, which was already seen last year, but as the power back?
Yeah, I mean, look at Blake. I mean, he was so good right when he got here. I mean, he has always maintained an impeccable approach to the game of football in terms of work ethic. I think he's added a few pounds this offseason, and it's all strength. It's all lean muscle mass. You know, just as fast, just as quick. But probably no better example of selflessness in the program than Blake Corum. He a tremendous worker and tremendous leader. Couldn't say enough good things about him, but you know, he's always been good. His approach has always been A++, and play speaks for itself.
Time for about 3 more questions. Alejandro.
Jim, you mentioned that some of the receivers text you asking how they can be more involved.
let's go. Yeah, it's there's just so many they're looking to do, and you love guys like that.
On the left there, Reiner.
Jim, players have talked about kind of setting a new standard last year. How much do you think you've seen that, especially this first three games, how they've kind of carried one performance to the next?
Yeah, just like what I said, I think the momentum is just really good right now, and I highlighted the three areas that I highlighted: work ethic, leadership, and selflessness throughout the program. Really stands out. And excited for this next challenge, this next week. We know competition level is gonna step up, and the guys want to have at it. They're ready to attack it with a great week of practice, and then have at it on Saturday.
Our last question, John.
Did you get a chance to see what Aiden did yesterday?
Yeah, 3 sacks. I watched it. Yeah, it was really impressive. Great to see it.
Thoughts about his transition in just a couple of games?
Pretty darn good. Pretty good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Coach Harbaugh has become a big fan of the movie quotes. Not a big fan on sharing this news. Cade McNamara's injury still expected to keep the now backup quarterback out a few weeks. J.J. McCarthy has been terrific as now the starter. Harbaugh saying he has full confidence in the other backups, likes what he has seen from them so far in Michigan's 3 wins. Big Ten Network gets you started at noon Eastern, 11 Central Time here on Big Ten Network. Central Michigan taking on Penn State. And then at 3:30 Eastern, I'm excited to be at Spartan Stadium, joined by Brandon Gaud and Joshua Perry on the call for Michigan State, Minnesota. At 7:30, you can see either Purdue or Northwestern based on your area. Another triple header coming your way this Saturday here on Big Ten Network. And for Michigan State and Mel Tucker, it will be the attempt at a bounce back this weekend. Great start to the season, but then the road trip to Washington on Saturday night did not turn out the way the Spartans envisioned, losing 39-28. Now, Michigan State set to host Minnesota. First time these teams have played since 2017, which means it'll be Tucker's first go against P.J. Fleck and the Gophers. And it is a tough sled right now for Michigan State. The road game to Washington, followed by a home game against Minnesota, and then you go back-to-back Maryland, Ohio State, and Wisconsin all in a row before finally getting a much-deserved rest in Week 8. You know, Mel Tucker's not focused that far in the future, thinking only right now about Minnesota. Let's head to East Lansing and listen in to the head Spartan.
All right, thanks everyone for being here today. And we got back early Sunday morning, about 6 a.m. Watched it on the plane and watched it when we got back right away, and it was exactly what we thought that we would see. Very disappointing, just sick of some of the bad football that we played, so we we made the improvements when we made the corrections, and then we had our first practice for Minnesota. We're really excited about opening up the Big Ten here at home in the Woodshed. I want to thank our fans. It's been great. 2 home games and then travel well on the road, and really appreciate that and looking forward to a great atmosphere in the Woodshed. So with that, I'll open it up.
When you looked at the film, was the pass breakdowns schematic, or was it missed assignments or technique, or what was the prevailing thing?
We didn't have anything schematic, which is the first thing you look for. Are we getting schemed up, or do we have something of that nature? It was mostly communication or technique, some type of eye discipline or an alignment error, something of that nature.
When
when you looked at the other side of the ball on the offense, what change do you feel up front between the beginning of the game and the second half, where the line was starting to kind of establish themselves a little bit?
Yeah, well, it was better execution, really. Just more assignment sound. It was death by inches with the offense, defense, and special teams for the entire game. Well, certainly in the first half. We had twice as many missed assignments in the first half as we did in the second half. So that was pretty much what it was.
I was wondering, when you look at Minnesota, their run game, their offense overall has been really good numbers-wise, but with Mo in the backfield and kind of the challenge he presents leading them back there.
Yeah, I really like the way they play the game of football. PJ's done a really nice job with that program, and they have one of the best offensive lines in the country. They're big, and they're very good at what they do in the run game, and they're very well coached, and they're going to run inside zone and stretch, and you just got to stop them. They have really good runners, the running back he's physical, and he runs the ball like the way you're supposed to run the rock. So I'm very impressed with the way they play the game and the way they run the football. And they're very efficient in the passing game as well. They have a very good quarterback experience, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So I'm just really impressed when you turn on the tape and you see how they play the game of football. Yep, I love it.
Hey, Coach. So Peyton seemed to be playing better against Washington this week, but he seemed to wasn't afraid to put his body on the line and took a few hits. Was he able to still hit the ground running at practice this week?
Well, he's still alive, yes. Yeah. He was present today, so.
And what were your thoughts on his overall play and improvement from the first two games?
He played well. I mean, he played better, and he was more efficient. He threw some really nice balls. He took some checkdowns, and he actually threw the ball away. So he threw some really nice balls, and then he used his feet. He's hyper competitive, which you could see, and so he improved.
Well, you went for two a number of times, and obviously they had the odd score with the safety and everything. And I'm wondering, philosophically, was that just something based on the math and metrics, or just so the decisions to continue to go up to those points?
No, it's just basically the math and the metrics, the analytics that really dictate those decisions, in the game, and that's kind of how we go about it.
Well, I'm wondering. PJ announced that Ottman Bell is out for the year. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a two-part thing. When you go into a game like this and you hear something like that on a Monday, how do you kind of prepare for that when a key piece is missing? And for you guys on the other side, how have you guys been able to sustain some of the top-level depth injuries that you've had?
Yeah. So if you know that a player is not going to be available, then you don't have to prepare for that player, but you still have to prepare for the other players, and they have a lot of good players and they have a really good scheme, and they play hard. Us, depth-wise, it's been a next man up mentality for us. I mean, that's the way it has to be, and so injuries are a part of the game, obviously, and so we need as many guys to be ready as possible and prepared to play. And so the next guy steps up, and we expect production, in those positions.
Now, when you went back and looked, I'm wondering what you thought of the pass rush. I know they get the ball out quick out there, but without a sack, and just how important is it going to be to get back on track there? Like you mentioned, a good O-line coming in here, experienced quarterback and everything.
Yeah. So we just need to have a better coordination with the rush, making sure the guys are working together up front. You know, and I'm talking about when we're rushing 4 guys. You know, and also, you know, we have some other, you know, rush schemes where we weren't necessarily rushing 4 guys, but we were expecting to get 3 one-on-ones and we didn't execute. And so, I mean, it takes everyone working together to get the type of rush that we need. And so that's an area where we need to improve. And it was evident when we watched the film. We actually watched the film with the players today. The entire football team, like this morning at 7:05, and it was we watched a continuous copy, in which, you know, it's not something that we normally do, but sometimes it's good to do that, so everyone can see, you know, what happens in the game. Offense, we talk about playing complementary football, so you have offense, defense, and special teams all working together. And, you know, you'd be surprised that sometimes even on the coaching staff, you know, the offensive coach is not sure what exactly is going on defense. You know, vice versa, same with the players, you know. It could be a defensive player, he just gets off the field, he's going over adjustments. Next thing you know, they say sudden change, he runs on the field. You know, after the game, showers up, gets on the bus, goes back, checks his phone, coming the next day, he watches the defensive film. He doesn't know what happened, you know, but their teammates said it was one team. So sometimes it's good to get everyone in one room and just go through it, just how I watched the film. I watched a continuous copy of games, you know, just how it happens. We kick off, and then we're on defense, and, you know, and then it kind of goes there. Special teams, offense, you see it. So we watched the first half together like that, and it helps with guys understanding actually why when we have success, why we have it, when we don't have success, and it helps with accountability. And it also helps to the understanding of complementary football, and then, you know, how you know, little details and discipline and things like that, how they plan to having successful plays or unsuccessful plays. And, you know, death by inches was what the story of the day. And on all 3 phases, what we call a rat trap. And I've talked about it before, is when, you know, all camp, all week, you know, preparation, you know, 2 + 2 is 4. You get in the game, and you feel good about, you know, 2 + 2 being 4, and then you get in the game, and all of a sudden 2 + 2 equals 5 or 6, and it's like, well, why'd you say it was 5? I don't know. What is it? It's 4. You know it's 4? Yes, I know it's 4. Why'd you say it was 5? I don't know. That's called rat trap, and so we have to do a better job as coaches to make sure that doesn't happen. And that starts with me. So we have to coach harder, we have to coach smarter, we have to coach with more intensity, more detail, more sense of urgency, and we have to just put more pressure on the entire situation so that when we do go into the game, we don't go rat trap. Is it start to finish? That's how I watch the games, unless I'm just specifically watching one side of the ball for some reason.
Between plays and everything else involved with that?
It's not a TV copy. It's just it's the coach's copy. So, for example, we kick off. Now when we kick off, we see that, and then now we're on defense, and you know, they go down and they score. Okay, and then, you know, extra point block, you know, and then kickoff return, you know, then we're on offense, and we see that, and then, you know, we run a few plays, and then it's 3rd and 1, you know, 3rd and 1, you know, we have miscommunication, we block it one way, running back goes another way, now it's 4th and 7, punt, now we're back on defense, and then you just watch the whole half like that, so you can see. And then the coaches are making the comments. The coaches are making the comments as I'm running the clicker. So Scotty will say, hey, it's like the main point of the play, hey, we are misaligned here. Then the D-line coach may say, hey, this is, he makes the coaching point, the linebacker coach makes the coaching point, defensive back coach makes the coaching point. I may throw in my 2 cents and go to the next play. We go through it like that. Same thing on offense and then on special teams. It takes a while. That's why you can't really do it all the time, but we were able to make some time. We were able to adjust our schedule to make that happen this morning. It was important. I thought it was very effective.
If you watch that, do you watch the between play stuff, like the 25-second clock? You watch like how are we substituting? How are guys dealing with things going in and out of the game? Or is it just
we can only watch what's on the coach's copy. So sometimes you can see some things, sometimes you can't, and that's why we watch TV copies as well, to see things that we can't see, on the coach's copy. And the coach's copy doesn't have any sound on it.
Mel, in the back, looked like you guys went to some 3 linebacker sets in the second half. Was that something you noticed at halftime, or what kind of caused that adjustment?
That was part of our game plan going in. Yeah. We try to match personnel depending on what they're in, depending on what we want to play. So.
Hey Mel, I'm curious, is this last game with Minnesota, are you and your staff that came from Colorado, are you able to take more from that game because you still know some of the players who were at Colorado? Like, just more so, like, did you get more out of that than you would against a team that you'd never been around before?
I did watch that game. I can't say I got more out of it, really. A lot of the guys that were there that we were familiar with aren't there anymore. So I didn't get quite as much as if maybe we knew all the guys that were out there, and you could kind of see, like you know what the matchup should look like, and then what they actually look like on the tape. It's not as much of that.
Mel in the front. So they're coming off 3 games at home. You guys obviously just made a challenging trip to the West Coast. Do you think that gives you guys anything, having already been kind of tested in a different way versus them? They're now doing it really for the first time this year.
Well, we're expecting them to come in here and be great, and be prepared and be ready to go. So, how going on the road helps us, and just how playing the game helps us as we should learn from the experience. And like you guys asked me after the game, you all asked me after the game, like, what do you learn about your team? Well, you learn a lot when you see the guys play in games, when you see them play in that type of environment. And so it's very revealing. And so we learn from it, and then we move on. And it was good to get our first practice in this morning for Minnesota, because we had to quickly move on and get that game behind us, because it just makes you sick until you can really turn the page, and but you have to move on.
Mel, you talk all about the ball, and we've seen what the fumble recoveries have meant this year. It's 111 pass attempts now without an interception. Mm-hmm. What can you do about that?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. When you're playing, we play zone coverage and we play man coverage, and then there's some combination coverages. When you're playing zone coverage, you have to do a really good job in the passing game in terms of making sure that the guys that have in zone should have vision on the quarterback, and when the quarterback throws the ball, everyone needs to break 1/3 the distance. The ball's in the air to the reception area, and then all tips and overthrows, we have to get those. And then the underneath players, when the quarterback gets to the top of his drop and sets his back foot and hitches, all the underneath droppers need to be set up, and the receivers should not be over top of those underneath droppers at that point. So it's a race against time to key and diagnose, see pass, and get back and get set up and get ready to break on the ball. And then we have to have the rush coordinated and working with the coverage. And sometimes, a couple of times in the last game, we had the rush, but the coverage didn't make the quarterback hold the ball long enough for us to get there, you know. And then vice versa, sometimes we had good coverage and the rush wasn't coordinated, and the quarterback, you know, has more time to run around a little bit and somebody, you know, finds somebody open late, you know. So in man coverage, same thing with the rush, that doesn't change. We have to have really good eye discipline in man coverage, make sure that we stay on top. I'm not saying you can't get interceptions and takeaways in man coverage, but the main thing is, you know, make sure you're on top of your guy, and my man doesn't catch the ball. And if you have an opportunity to get your hands on the ball, then make the play. You know, so and then, you know, when we pressure, we got to speed up the quarterback, and we got to be opportunistic. And we have vision, you know, on the quarterback to break on the football. You know, so. Yeah, when we were close a few times, I thought that we had a chance to get some balls that were overthrown. We were really, really close, you know, but we didn't have a good enough break on the ball, weren't in quite enough good in the position that we needed to be in to make the play. So we had to coach a lot better to get all of us to get what we want as far as takeaways, interceptions.
Mel, you've obviously been coaching a long time, been through disappointments and ups and downs, and
Yes, I have.
And your players mostly as well. You've had a nice run here, going back to the Penn State game, since something really has gone wrong. And I'm wondering what you look for inside your program when you have a moment like this, where for some guys it's new, and the response you want to see, and are there tells and things you're looking for during the week?
Yeah, well, coming out of the game after you grade the film, then you know, and you see rat trap, you know, then, you know, you basically got guys in three categories: guys you can trust and you know what you're going to get from them. Then you got guys in the middle category that, you know, that you feel like you should be able to trust, but you need to get better. Then you got guys in the category where you just can't trust them right now. You're not sure exactly what you're going to get at all when they step on the field. So you have to make sure those guys you can't trust don't step on the field again until they get to the point where you can trust again, you know, through practice. And then, so that's the first thing you have to do, you know, who we're going to put on the field. And then what changes need to be made from a personnel standpoint, you know, assuming that the scheme is sound and things like that. And then we got to coach them better. And then we're going to be defined on, you know, how we respond, you know, to adversity, and how do we respond to a loss. Just like how do you handle success? You know, same thing. So we're looking for the choices and decisions that we make, you know, daily, you know, right now, like today and tomorrow, that are like, what are we going to do about it? You know, require work, unrequire work, our attention to detail, the sense of urgency. Is there any complacency in the program? Is there any sense of entitlement? Is there any casualness in any part of the program? You know, like today it was a couple guys that were a little late to treatment, you know, which pissed me off. You know, because that's how you get your ass beat. You know, so you look for things like that moving forward, and we make good choices and decisions, and we have intentional focus. And that's how we get better and make sure we don't go out there and, you know, play bad football like we did on Saturday.
Mel, right here. The list of Big Ten teams that you guys haven't played it as a staff yet is obviously shortening as we move forward here. Minnesota is a first time though for you guys. Just wondering, I know the process isn't going to change wholesale, but does a little more have to go into it, I guess, when it's not a team like a Purdue or somebody, you know, that you have played before since you guys have been here, anything like that?
I'm not sure if there's a little more that has to go into it. You know, we have, we do out-of-season studies on our opponents because we know what the schedule is going to be, and then we see if there's new coordinators and things like that, and we do the research on the guys ahead of time. And if you played them maybe the year before or the couple years, you can pull out the game from last year or a couple years ago and kind of see how you played and then compare it to what they're doing now, see if anything's changed. And you may be able to see like your guys against their guys, personnel matchups, things like that. But I think if you're preparing any like more diligently or with more urgency or more attention to detail, 1 week versus another week, then that's a problem. If you're preparing as like a staff or players, like if you're saying, okay, well, I'm gonna prepare a little bit more. Well, like why are you preparing more now as opposed to another game? You should be maximum preparation. We only get so many opportunities, and like this is what we're doing as coaches. Not like I'm teaching classes or coming like I'm going to in-school suspension and watching over that class after I leave here, and I'm going back to prepare. So it's like it's yep.
Hey Mel, I know as head coach, you're concerned more about the bigger picture. I'm over here.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I should have known from the accent.
Okay. Anyway, I was saying that as head coach, I know you're concerned about the bigger picture and every aspect of the program, top to bottom. But when a quarterback has a game where he throws for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, now that you're coaching the corners, do you take that more personally? Did it get harder? Okay.
Hell yeah, I take it personal. I take it all personal. I remember one time I was coaching, I was at another school, I'm not going to name it, and then something happened, and I was actually at Ohio State, and someone said, well, you can't take that personally, and I was like, I didn't understand that, and I was talking to Coach Chryst about it. He said, I never met a good coach who didn't take it personally.
And so I guess since Saturday, kind of what has been the self-reflection for you on maybe what you could have done with the corners and things like that?
Yeah, well, the reflection is like I told the players, the resume is on the tape, So, like right now, I'm a horseshit football coach right now. That's honestly is how I think about it. So we got to get better.
You talked before the season about the pass defense and that kind of stuff. The mistakes that were made Saturday, are they the same as last year? Or are they a different breed? Or how would you characterize it?
Well, I saw some similarities in a couple things, and that's why we're going to have to make some changes. Yeah.
You mean personnel?
Yeah.
You said you take this personally. Obviously, it's Monday, it's early, but you'll see more throughout the week and on Saturday. But how do you think your guys are responding just to that first loss and kind of moving forward to Big Ten?
Today we were good today. We had good meetings. I thought the meetings were productive. Our practice, we didn't hit today, but we were going full speed, and there was a lot of focus there, and I saw the attention to detail. The guys weren't in, were paying attention, and guys were coaching each other up. It was very organized. I thought we moved with a sense of urgency from drill to drill, and things were pretty clean, and just kind of introducing the game plan to the guys. And so we talk about stacking days and every detail being important. So at the end of every practice, the question becomes like, did we stack today? And so, when I go back, we'll watch the film here of the practice and offense, defense, special teams, and we'll say, hey, did we stack today? And it's the standard is a standard, so either we did or we didn't. Because if we didn't practice or perform up to the standard, then we didn't stack. So that's kind of how we go about the process throughout the week. If we stack days, then that gives us the best chance. But again, we have to raise our level of intensity in what we're doing. And I hope my mom is not watching this press conference today. So.
Now, just your team's challenge is obviously how they bounce back from their first taste of adversity. Where do you think your team's confidence level is, or how a game like that affects it?
We're going to find out here pretty soon. But today I saw a confident football team. I mean, you have to learn and you have to learn from from adversity. Like, we're going to be defined, based upon like how we respond to like this adversity and a loss, and sometimes you can win and not play well, and you have to respond to that. Like when in the first game of the season, we're a very inconsistent football team right now, and so I think the collective confidence of the team is as confident as it can be coming off of a performance like that. But the team is made up of individuals, and so you got to look at some of the individuals that are going to have a role in the game, and we have to see, like, hey, if they're going to have a role, we have to make sure they're confident in what they're doing, and the confidence comes from demonstrated ability. So if I've done it before at a high level, then I should have confidence, or I can have confidence in a player because I've seen him do it. He's demonstrated that ability to do that to the standard, and so that's why the preparation for the week is so important, because we have to make the practices as much as we can. We can't kill the guys. I mean, we got to get the guys to the game, but we have to make them as game-like as possible in terms of the speed and the intensity, and then kind of like the atmosphere and how we coach the guys, so that we can have the players can gain confidence by saying, hey, if I can do it in practice, to the standard, then I should be able to carry that over to the game, and then we can have confidence in the player saying he's demonstrated the ability to do that, and take it to the game. And so when you have rat trap is when we have demonstrated that we can do that, but we don't do it in the game. So and like I told the team, I said, listen, every coach in America right now is trying to figure it out. This week, everyone in America is having meetings today and Monday practice, and introducing, the team to the next opponent, and everyone's 18 and 22 years old, and we all got it, and so that's where the rubber meets the road, like preparing your football team. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're doing right now. We're right in the middle of it. I'm looking forward to getting back to it, and I'm done here. Thank you so much. Appreciate you covering the team. Enjoy the rest of the week, and apologize to my mom in advance. Thank you.
Oh, Tucker apologizing to Mrs. Tucker, hoping his mom was not watching the press conference today. Nothing to do with the fact that Michigan State is coming off a loss, but because he used a few colorful words during that press conference. After all, he did say he took the loss to Washington personally. So it's Michigan State and Minnesota this weekend, and boy, have the Gophers been good. 3 straight wins by at least 38 points. First time they have done that in more than a century. They're second in all of FBS football in total yards per game and total yards per game allowed. Perhaps most impressive, they are rushing for more than 310 yards per game. But now the competition level gets much more difficult. After easy wins over New Mexico State, Western Illinois, and Colorado, it is Michigan State this week on the road, 3:30 Eastern game that you can see right here on Big Ten Network. Let's head to the Twin Cities. Here is Minnesota head coach PJ Fleck.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Opening statement, I'll start with kind of an extension of what I talked about after the game. Chris Ottman-Bell suffered a lower leg injury, and he'll have surgery on Wednesday, so that'll end his season. So he's got a season-ending injury. We're going to appeal to the NCAA, apply for a 7th year, and that'll be up to his family and him whether he decides to do that or not. He's a huge member of the football team, will continue to be a huge member of this football team. His leadership is second to none, and we're going to need that from him as we keep going through Big Ten play here. It's unfortunate. Your heart breaks for him because he's worked incredibly hard. But we have a lot of people on this football team, and Chris would tell you the exact same thing. There's a lot of people on this football team here in year 6 that can make a ton of plays for us. And I think you've seen that in the first 3 games, the distribution of the football and the ability for a lot of these guys to be playmakers. And, if this happens maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe in a different, he has a different vibe. But again, there's a lot of guys who can make a ton of plays. Chryst is a major leader on this team, and he will continue to be a major leader of this team. And I know he's really anxious to get the surgery on Wednesday and start moving towards rehab and getting better. And that's going to be the main focus for him. So heart goes out to him and his family, and heart breaks for him because, again, these young people, it's football. I mean, you all saw the play. And when you watch the play over and over, you still can't see it. There's not a twist. There's not a turn. It just goes. And that's football. And there's nothing you can do to avoid it. He plays the game the right way, the hard way, and he's a huge member of this football team. So, again, applying for a 7th year for him, which he'll be eligible for because it happened so early. And but that decision will be up to him and his family. But right now I know his focus is on getting that surgery on Wednesday, and then his focus will, again, still turn to Michigan State as well because, again, huge leader and a huge member of this football team. So there's the opening statement for today. With that, open up for questions.
EJ, how was he handling it?
I mean, one thing I love about this team is it means a lot to everybody. And when you're a really connected team, you've poured a lot into each other. You poured a lot into the team. You poured a lot into football off the field. So obviously when you're in there and you're in there, right, after the game, you're going in, and then, we meet back over here in our facility with the doctors and his family. And, you get the news. I mean, he responded the way that you'd see somebody respond with really hard news, But it didn't take him long to wipe those tears away, and his mind was already on what he's going to do and accomplish and come back from. And that's what Row the Boat's all about. You take it in, you process it, take a deep breath, put your oar back in the water, and go. And that's what he's done. Had a great conversation with him right prior to this because I was going to tell him what we were going to discuss and how I was going to discuss it with him, and he gave me permission to talk about it. And but he's doing great right now. I think he's looking forward to the surgery on Wednesday. We've got the best doctors in the country, and he's looking forward to the game on Saturday. I know that too.
EJ, with talking a little bit about the environment situation you're going into at Michigan State, I know Coach Tucker has really encouraged a really rabid fan base there, and they're coming off the Washington game. You got to figure that they're pretty upset about that. Really a motivated football team Saturday when they play the Gophers. How does it help? Could you talk a little bit about how does it help you from the standpoint of having a mature football team and a team that's a player-led team like you've talked about?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about college football, you get 12 guaranteed opportunities, some home, some away. But you need to prepare for all those things before they're actually here. We've been preparing to go on the road since January, and the hostile and chaotic environments we create for our players, whether that's winter conditioning or whether that's spring ball or whether that's in the summer training camp practices that you're all at every single day. You can see how we practice within that chaos. We know it's going to be a hostile environment. We know that. They're a very traditional football team. They got a great fan base, got a wonderful stadium. We know it'll be loud, and we'll be prepared for that.
PJ, you've been through a lot of season-ending injuries with this program. What did you take from Mo's injury last year that happened at a similar time, and how you kind of direct and message to the team when you lose such a key player?
Well, I think what you have to do is you've got to show them it happens to everybody first and foremost. You look in the National Football League yesterday. I mean, a quarterback, 2 quarterbacks I think are done for the year. Multiple other people across the league are done for the year. It's football. This is very different than a lot of other sports that are not violent contact sports, where injuries it's not if it's going to happen to you, it's when and to who, right? And we want to constantly have this perspective for our players that it happens. Don't just be in this little bubble, think it's just this or just us or we're the only one that ever goes through it. But here's how we're going to be trained to respond to it. And I think our players have done an outstanding job with that. Their heart hurts and breaks for Crab too, but they also know that, we're deeper than we've been. We've got playmakers everywhere, and they know that Chryst is going to be a major part of what we do, even if he's not on the field. This isn't the National Football League. This isn't IR and go home. Even that. I mean, I was put on IR. I didn't go home. And whether people wanted me to go home or not, I wasn't going home. I was going to be there coaching people, be around the team, and that's the type of environment we have here. And I don't expect anything less from Chryst, and he knows that, and the team knows that.
Through 3 weeks, what have you learned about your offensive line, and where do you want to see him grow entering Big Ten play?
Well, I said before, I thought John Michael Schmitz, Brian Callahan, and I think all of them deserve a lot of credit for how fast they've gelled together. I think we have, like any offensive line, we have some strengths. We have some things that we have to continue to get better at, especially the consistency in what we play with. But right now, we want to be 1-0 in every championship season, but we've been able to do some things that we really wanted to do in the run game. But also, there are some things that we have to get better at technically, fundamentally, cohesively, where it's one of the only positions where it's a position that works together, but you can still run a wrong route and go through your progression and still get to the reads 2, 3, and 4, right? One guy doesn't do something right cohesively up front, and you're in trouble fast, right? But I love how they've gelled together. I like how connected they are. But fundamentally, in the techniques, pad level, finish, we got to keep getting better in those areas. Not to say we're bad at those areas, but we have to keep getting better in those areas.
What's your assessment from 3 games in Michigan State tape?
Well, this is the interesting thing about college football right now. And this is a top 10 team last week, top 11 team, whatever it was, right? And then this week, they're in the poll and then they're out in the poll, right? In one poll, not in the other poll. It's still early in college football, but they are a Mel Tucker coached Michigan State tough football team. And you can see it. The DNA's across every player that they have. They've got skill positions. They've got 4 or 5 skill players, and probably way more than that. They got a guy who plays basketball for them, making plays on the offensive side of the ball. I think one of their best players is coming back this week, I'm sure. But they've got wideouts galore, tight ends that can block, are incredibly athletic, making freaky catches. They've got a quarterback who's played a ton of football, who's got a ton of moxie, who's got great leadership, got great control of the offense, plays with incredible passion and emotion, and really is a heartbeat of that team. And up front, they've got a ton of experience back on the left side, and they're playing really well. When you look at the Washington game, it was just a few series early where they got behind. If it wasn't just a few series or a few execution things, it's interesting how that game would have turned out. But they're a very good football team. They're a dangerous football team, very well-coached football team, disciplined football team, deep football team. And then you look defensively, and, their front seven is long. They're athletic. They're experienced. They're very strong. One thing I'll say about they're a very, very strong defensive front. And they've got, one of their corners is 6'3", almost 6'4". They got length, size. Special teams are consistent. So this is a very good football team that we're going to play. We know that. But just like we say every week, with all due respect to everybody, we've got to play our best football and execute the game plan that's made for the Michigan State season, period. And find a way to be 1-0. We have a ton of respect for their coaching staff, ton of respect for them as coaches, them as a program, their fan base. What they've been able to do over the last few decades is really impressive. But we have to take care of us. We can only control us.
Daniel Jackson returned from his injury. How do you feel he played and how is he progressing?
I thought he played really well for what we asked him to do. He was on a pitch count. He's not on a pitch count anymore. It's kind of ironic, Crab's hurt and then we get Daniel back. But when you look across, there's 4 or 5 wideouts who've all caught passes this year. All have played football before and a ton of football and can all make plays. So again, they're going to be relied upon. But when I said this at my press conference after the game, when I said you kind of look across the board, 6 different wideouts or 6 different people caught passes, and we didn't throw the ball a ton. The week before it was even more than that. From the tight ends to the running backs to the wideouts, we have more depth at those positions than we've had in years past, where it's not just one guy that is the focal point, and then everybody's a supporting cast. Everybody can be the focal point, and that's what this team offensively has to understand. And my message to them was that you might be the guy that catches 12 passes in a game. You might go a game with 1 catch or 0 catches. It just depends on what the defense is giving us. But that's a good problem to have for us, that we have a lot of guys playing at a high level offensively that are showing that they can make the plays in the pressure of the moment and the pressure of the situation.
PJ, 3 games into the season, what do you like most about the way your defense is playing?
One, they're playing together, and they're playing incredibly hard, and they're playing assignment sound. Smarter players are better players usually, right? And we have a really smart defense. They understand the calls. They understand why the calls are that way. And it helps having Mariano Sori-Marin in the middle, who's basically a defensive coordinator on the field. He can make a lot of things right really quick. Because a lot of people, especially last week, the shifts and the motions, and then you add tempo to that. That can be very difficult, especially with the calls being made. And at times, depending on what your defense can handle, that can vanilla you up pretty quick. And they can keep you in that defense and like I said, vanilla you up. And we don't have that. We have guys that can handle calls, change calls, make calls, switch it on the run, and we know everybody's going to be where they need to be. Now, do we need to play better? Absolutely. Like if you were in that meeting yesterday, in our leather vest meeting, I'm probably sure you wouldn't think we played very well. But it's not the score we measure, right? It's how we played. And as a coach, I think Hugh McCutcheon always says we're perpetually disappointed, as coaches. And I think that was one of his all-time statements, right? He says it in an accent different than mine. But he's right, because as a coach, you're always taking from where somebody is, and they can accomplish that, but then you're taking them somewhere where they haven't been yet, or they haven't showed they can do consistently. And so you're constantly learning from either yourself or from other people what you have to get better at. So that's what I respect about our defense right now. And, you're only as good as today. And we got to change our best and have a wonderful day of preparation.
Probably an understatement to say that Michigan State will be the most physical team you've played so far. How do you get ready for that during this week?
Well, I would say that, we're pretty physical as well, and we've been playing against each other since spring practice. And I told you before, as we went into this, knowing what kind of schedule we'd hit towards Big Ten play, if you go back to other press conferences I've had, I said this is the most physical spring ball we had, the most physical training camp we've had, knowing that we were going to prepare for this. If you're preparing for this in Michigan State now, I mean, it's going to be a long day. You better be preparing for those types of teams back in spring ball, in training camp. And, we did more good on good in training camp and spring ball than we ever have in our 6 years, knowing what kind of slate we were going to have this year, especially once we get into Big Ten play.
What have you seen from Brevin to become a complete tight end?
Well, he's becoming a complete tight end. We showed him a clip of Jerry Rice last week talking about how the announcer said to him, when did you know you mastered the wide receiver position, the interviewers? And he goes, I never mastered the wide receiver position. Who said that? He goes, I still haven't mastered the wide receiver position. There was always something I could get better at based on coaches pointing out what I could do. And he said he always respected that. He always respected the coaches that showed him what he wasn't. He knew he was good, and they knew he was good. But what wasn't I good at that particular week? Have the nerve to tell me that. Have the confidence to tell me that. Even though I'm Jerry Rice, tell me that so I can get better, so I can be a better version of Jerry Rice. We showed our team that in our leadership council last week, and when they all kind of take it personal, like, what can you be better at? What can you take from this actual clip? And Brevin's a great example of that. Brevin's playing at a high level, but Brevin also has to finish a catch that turns into an interception, right? Brevin's got to be able to finish some blocks that he knows he can finish. His pad level's got to get lower. His first step can get better. His hand placement can be better. But he's playing at a high level. He's got to know that too. Part of coaching, sandwich coaching, give them something to get your attention, which is positive, right? Saying something positive to somebody is better than saying something negative to somebody. It's going to get their attention a little bit more than just ignoring it. Give them the meat of what you actually want to teach them in the middle, and then give them a little encouragement on the way out. But the meat of what you really want is in the middle, and they're willing to listen to it if you draw them in with something positive. So Brevin's come a long way. I think you've all watched Brevin's development from maybe a basketball kid. Will he ever get big enough? He's so athletic. What will he be? So many unanswered questions. Will we offer him? How many times does he have to come to camp? That was one of the questions his family asked his mom. How many times does he actually have to keep coming to camp before we offer him? And I said, one more. I kept saying one more. Just one more. Just one more. But you could see that in him. And that's what I appreciate about him most is he's willing to change his best. He's willing to know that he is getting better. And that humble and confident part about him is balanced. He's humble enough to know that, I got to get better, but he's confident enough to know I am getting better. And I can see it. And we need him, not only him, but we need Nick and we need Jameson and our tight ends to even keep playing better.
PJ, with a couple of big victories over the last few weeks, you've been able to get the younger guys in there. What have you seen from them and that has impressed you so far?
I'm impressed with our young players. But again, it's a Jekyll and Hyde situation, right? Because you're really impressed with a lot of the youth talent that you have, but you know how far away you are to actually maximizing that potential. Not only that, when guys go in to take reps, It shows you how far off or how close they are to getting the concepts that we're actually coaching and teaching fundamentally and schematically. And again, the expectation of them is you're in the game, so the standard is the standard. So you're dealing with that, plus an expectation of they're probably not going to play as well as the starters. And then a reality, is that going to meet that up to that expectation? And that's where frustration comes in. And so you're doing everything you can to eliminate that frustration because you're putting them in there to gain that experience, but keep that standard really high at the same time, right? And so you have to continue to guide them and nurture them through the week to let them know, like, listen, you're not going to get it all today, but you can control your effort. You can control how hard you play. You can control the hustle mistakes. You can control all that, and that's what I want to see. I want to see them playing fast. And when we go in there, you probably haven't seen a ton of exotic calls. When they've got opportunities, I just want to see them play. And I'm impressed with a lot of our youthful talent, especially when you look at the defensive side of the ball. I've said that before. I said that in week 1. I said, you look out there, and this is no disrespect to our ones, but some of those young freshmen physically look like they're the ones when they roll out there as, 18-year-olds. And that's what you want to see as you keep developing and building a program and recruiting.
One or two more for Coach.
PJ, what are the first 3 games in the film show on the level that John Michael Schmidt is playing at?
Well, he's playing at an incredibly high level. Can he play higher? Absolutely. Again, same thing. It's that humble and confident part. He's a very confident player, but he knows he can always improve. He knows he hasn't mastered it. But he is such a student of the game. I mean, you give us 100 John Michaels. I mean, just in terms of, give us 100 Mariano Sori-Marins. I mean, I could say that about the majority of our football team because they work so hard at the mental aspect of the game. Being the student of the game, understanding the why of the game, and then truly taking a deep dive into themselves. I mean, we're on the practice field a very short amount of time yesterday, and we end. I mean, it's an hour later. I look outside there. I mean, we have pizza. 2 of my pieces are gone. I don't eat a lot of pizza on Sunday night. It's not good for you. And but as I look out there, I mean, there's still 40 guys on the field. An hour after by themselves, working on their craft, not physically exerting themselves like running sprints or running 50 routes because they understand why we practice the way we practice and why we load them the way we load them and what rest actually looks like. But there's still half the football team out there working on unrequired work an hour after we get done last night. I mean, that's what I mean about, that's why this team is so fun to like and be around, and they deserve everybody's best. And they're getting it from everywhere. And I think that's a credit to them.
Final one for Coach, or is everyone else set? You look at the safety experience you have there. What does that do for schematic possibilities just in the back end, with their experience level?
Yeah, I think their experience level, I think the corners' experience level, even the guys that came here have played a ton of football, maybe not at this level. Well, Beanie and Ryan, the transfers that come in, and you look at, Flip. You look at 7, 8 guys in that secondary, they've all played a ton of football. That definitely helps you. It helps each week that you can do some different things. It doesn't have to just be one thing, or they can't handle this, or this person won't be able to handle that. They can handle a lot, and they want a lot. One thing about this team is they want to be challenged. And at the safety position, I mean, there's 2 guys that are incredibly confident back there, but they want to be challenged at the same time. And not only that, they compete with each other every single day. They're incredibly close, Jay Howe and Tyler Newbin, but they compete with each other every day. And it's fun to watch it because they've got a great presence about them, and they love football. They love their teammates. They love getting better. They love the process of getting better. They love the work. And that just keeps coming back to why this is such a fun team to coach. Win or lose, like this is a fun team to coach because the ability to take them to a different level is way better. It's easier because they want to get there and they're willing to do all the unrequired work themselves. All right, appreciate everybody's time. Roll the boat, Sky. Michael, go first. Thanks.
PJ Fleck saying his team likes challenges. They'll have one for the rest of the season. Chryst Autman-Bell, top wide receiver on this team, done for the year. Lower leg injury, expected to have surgery later this week. The Gophers will seek a 7th year for Autman-Bell from the NCAA, and that will be up to the man they call Crab and his family to see if they'd like to seek that 7th year.
David Gilreath from the 3. 25, 30, 35, explodes midfield. A chance to return the opening kickoff for 6. He'll take it to the house. 97 yards. Watt.
That's a man against boys.
It is something to celebrate when you pick off number one in this situation.
Hard to believe it's been almost a dozen years since Wisconsin, at home in front of that raucous Camp Randall crowd, knocked off number one Ohio State. Since then, the Buckeyes have gotten their revenge 8 times over. This coming weekend, Wisconsin has a chance to reverse that trend and finally beat Ohio State for the first time since that mythical 2010 game. Badgers coming off an easy 66-7 win over a completely overmatched New Mexico State team. But now it's a bit different when you travel to the Shoe to take on Ohio State under the lights. Let's hear more about that game and the state of Wisconsin football. Here is Badger head coach Paul Chryst.
Well, good morning, and awfully excited to get going this week again. And it was great being around the guys and to get this week started. And I know I say this, but to have a great week of preparation, right? And it's I like the way the guys go about their business. We just got to continue to find ways to improving our preparation, improving the way we practice, and get ourselves ready for a great opportunity Saturday.
Paul, they've got their quarterback back, but they lost some really good wide receivers last year, yet it doesn't appear that there's much of a drop-off. Can you talk about how much stress it appears they are putting on defenses right now with everything they can do both in the run game and spreading the field with their receivers?
Yeah, I think that's the, kind of in the question is the answer, and certainly he's a heck of a quarterback. And I think they've got a lot of good players around him, and they do a great job of kind of threatening and using the whole field, and do it in the run game, do it in the passing game. A lot of respect for the coaches and what they do and how they do it. It's one thing just this is their scheme, but their players understand it, and you see that, and that allows them to truly go out and play. And I think that's what they're doing really well.
Paul, it appears as though Graham is playing some of the most consistent football of his career here to start the season. Can you share, are there a couple of areas that you think he's improved the most, or where you feel like he's grown since even spring ball when you wanted to see him take a jump?
Yeah, I think that he's he's trusting in himself. He's trusting what he's seeing, and he's trusting those around him. And I think he's playing the game. And each week you're going to see something new. This week we'll see something different, and that's always a new test, new challenge. But I think if you were to summarize it, he's playing the game right now, and I think he's not trying to do it all on his own. He's letting those around him help him, and that part's been good.
Much talk. Obviously, Ohio State's offense has been really high-powered for the last few years. What stands out about their defense now with the new coordinator?
Yeah, I think they're, one, it's obviously, he's got a good scheme and knowing about him and certainly respect him. But again, I go back to what we're talking about offense. The players understand. I think they play to their strengths, and they've got good players on defense, the guys that can make plays and looks to me like they trust him to do that and put him in positions to do that. And so it's a good football team, offensively, defensively, and you certainly see it on special teams.
Paul, you've seen Ryan Day in this conference for the last 5 years as a head coach and a couple more years as an offensive coordinator. They've obviously had a ton of talent on offense, but what's he do as a play caller that makes it tough to defend what they do?
I think that I don't know this, but from looking at it and watching it, I feel like he's got a system, and there's a rhyme or reason to it, and I think that certainly understands it, and the players understand it, and so can find the cheats. If you're doing something to take away something or make it harder on something, that he knows where the cheats are. It's again, it's just sound, really good football. And I think, credit to him. I think that's what's impressive is that I think that's what he allows them to do, and he's built it so they can do that.
Paul, after the Washington State game, when we talked to Jim Leonard, he talked about how Washington State stressed the defense, putting guys in space, one-on-one tackles. Does Ohio State do the same thing to people? And do you think your guys are better prepared having faced Washington State because of that?
Yeah, I think, are we better prepared? I mean, I think experiences help you, certainly. And, I think that they do a good job of, because they can make you defend the whole field. And there is, get good players, and so there's a good threat, in the passing game, all across the field and in the run game. So I think in those ways, yeah, they have the ability absolutely to stress you, and when they do, when the ball declares, we got to get as many hats to it as we can. But you also got a responsibility, and you got to play your responsibility. You got to trust that the other guys are doing theirs, and then when it declares, you got to get as many hats to the ball as we can.
Paul, with the tight ends, with Clay and Hayden getting some touches through receptions, obviously with Graham too, they're all roommates. How does that dynamic as roommates? How can from your experience as a player and also a coach, how does that influence the dynamic between them on the field, if any?
I think that certainly when you room together, you've got a closeness, and yet I know there's a lot of guys that don't room together that are certainly close, and what you want to do is you want to play with guys you care about and guys that you can trust, and so whether it's specifically like you're mentioning, when you room with them, I think there certainly is that component to it, but I think it goes bigger than that too.
Paul, excuse me. Stroud's obviously been a guy that's defenses have had a hard time getting a hold of. I guess just can you speak to what's going to be key to at least making him a little uncomfortable when you guys face him? What's going to kind of go into that?
Yeah, I mean a lot of times it comes down to you got to execute and you got to play. And every game, and this game is no different. There's going to be a lot of one-on-one battles, and can you win those one-on-ones? And that's, I think, what it comes down to. And I think, I don't care, we're asked about Graham, you talk about, CJ, any quarterback that has time and is comfortable, it's the world's a little bit easier for him, and so I think it comes down to, all 11 guys got to do their part, and someone's gonna, in those moments, someone's got to win the matchup.
Paul, we've seen you guys with Jim putting him in the slot, and it seems like in football in general, better receivers or maybe different size receivers are playing in the slot more often. What are some of the advantages that you've found over the years of having a receiver that's maybe not that smaller, quick guy in the slot that used to be that way? Just what are some of the advantages of mixing it up in there?
Yeah, I think that it probably could be a lot. I mean, historically you had, could you get a guy that's got real quick feet, and can he separate? And you certainly still value that. And then I think you look for, a guy that can handle that, and there's so much on everyone's plate, and who's the guy that feels comfortable in there and kind of has an idea. And I think experience helps you kind of with understanding spacing and understanding zones and the holes and how do you win on different leverages and man-to-man. And so I think that a big part of it is how do you get experience in there, and then guys that are equipped to deal with a number of different things that you see.
Kind of following up on that, I mean, after last season you lost Jake at tight end, you lost two really good wide receivers, and Chim was your only experienced receiving threat coming back. Did you have questions or concerns coming in? Who's going to step up for us? How are we going to be able to spread the ball around it? And what have you seen, again, only through 3 games?
Right. I think you're always, anytime that you've got there's going to be new faces. There's certainly, we've been around them, and they hadn't necessarily had a lot of game experience, but you were able to tell and know what they were capable of. And then it's, you want to see then how they handle different moments. You know, how do you handle spring ball? And then it goes, you know, what can you learn from spring and work on in the summer? And then, you know, how did they grow from spring to fall camp? And then, you know, whether it's situations you have in fall camp, and now that we've got some games under their belt, right, you're just continuing to keep finding out about guys that haven't played a lot in games. And I've always liked the way the group has worked, and Elvis has done a nice job of coaching them and helping them. And so I think that you know, it's been good to start to see, you start to get enough background on them, enough game experience that I believe they can all contribute in a lot of ways. I feel like they've all done some good, and I think for all of them, there's still room for growth, and we just got to keep growing.
Two-part question on Isaac Rendo. Is his performance so far maybe you're giving consideration to get him more involved? And also, how's his speed? Is it back to where it was?
Yeah, it's I've appreciated what Isaac's done, you know, to get himself here, and absolutely, I think, you know, what he's done has been, I've been really happy for him and happy for our team to see. You know, I think he's playing with confidence, and certainly, you know, especially a guy coming off an injury, you sometimes wonder on the physicality part of it, and from the first day that he went, you know, didn't question that at all, and I think that his speed is coming. You know what I mean? I think it's all that. I don't know, and he's looked good, and I think that you know, there's certainly a guy that we trust, and you want in, no matter what type of situation it is.
You've mentioned Graham, but I was just wondering, the relationship with Bobby, how has that kind of been a factor, and how did you kind of see that relationship develop over the course of the offseason heading into the year?
Yeah, and I think it's been very positive, and certainly, you know, I know that Graham has always wanted anything that can be of help, you know, and will take the time and is open for any interaction, and some of it has to deal directly with football, and some pertains probably is applicable to football, and some probably not at all. And I think the same can be said about Bobby. You know, any way that he can help, and I think it's been very positive.
Paul, with you talking about Isaac earlier, but looking at Braylon and Ches and Isaac as a trio, they've all had varying degrees of success this season already. Just how are you seeing them bond or work off each other, whether it's success or even on the sideline, if there's feedback to be given about what they see or don't see?
Yeah, no, I think they're truly they're in it together, and they will help each other in every possible way. I think that they all believe that they can complement each other. You know, I think all three are different, and I think they recognize that and kind of value that. And I think all three realize too that when all three of them are on, we're a better team.
Paul, do you enter this week thinking you might do that same right side rotation on the offensive line, or does it just kind of depend how practice goes this week?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, you know, practice, you know, and we're able to get, you know, more practice with, you know, certainly Bort. You know, he was limited early and kind of kept coming, so that'll help there. And I think, you know, the same can be said with kind of where we're at with the kicking situation. Any of those, you know, that are kind of tied in with an injury, you kind of want to see how the week plays out. All right.
Sorry, Paul. I know, like in the spring, Bob Bostad talked about kind of trying to home in each lineman to a particular spot, but with Trey Wadig and just how he's been able to be utilized, you know, second team center, but also he was at right tackle and he's played the guard spots. Just what does that speak to Trey and his willingness to do what's needed on the line, but also his versatility?
Yeah, I think just that. You know, I mean, he is, one, he's willing, and two, he's capable, and probably most importantly is that I don't think that it's been negatively affecting him. You know, that you never want to be jack of all trades, master of none. You know, and I think his demeanor is such that he's able to truly focus in and doesn't get too caught up in kind of where am I at, and he can still kind of hone in on the fundamentals that are applicable. Certainly they're different, right? When you're playing center, it's different than at tackle, and you know, in camp he's played guard. I mean, there's a lot of things he can do, and I think that's also, you know, part of the reason why he's put himself in that position is he is capable of that, and he has been playing well for us in many instances, and therefore, you know, when you go to it, we want to have as much as you can. You'd love to have stability across the board, but you also want to have the ability to get your best players on the field, and I think he's kind of truly in the middle of all that, right? He's a player that's earned himself a right to be playing, and at times it comes at different spots. All right, thank you.
And while there was no drama for Wisconsin in its weekend win, same cannot be said for Indiana. Hoosiers outscored Western Kentucky 20-6 in the fourth quarter and overtime, including a late 2-point conversion and the game-winning field goal by special teams player of the week, Charles Campbell. All adds up to a 3-0 record for Tom Allen and the Hoosiers. Forget about 2021, now a distant memory for IU. This team will have a chance to go 4-0 this coming week on the road. Remember, still in non-conference play this week because they opened up with a Big Ten game against Illinois, that 23-20 win. It is Cincinnati this week on the road, the second half of the home and home against the Bearcats. All things Indiana football now as we head to Bloomington. Here is Tom Allen.
I just want to welcome everybody here today, and once again, really proud of our football team and continue to find ways to win and finish out games, and just really proud of Charles Campbell, named the Special Teams Big Ten Player of the Week, and rightly so, with 4 field goals and the obvious one at the end to win the game in overtime from 51, and just his mental toughness, and didn't kick well last week and just came right back and was clutch for us and has been for several years now. So, but I also, in our team meeting this morning, got a chance to recognize Sean Ratcher. I said, Sean, did anybody carry you off the field or get any pictures with people after the game? And he said, no. I said, well, there you go. I said, you were the key to the whole thing, because if without that snap, there would be no kick. But he understands his role. So, but no, he does a phenomenal job. He's so consistent. And as well as James, the holder, all those guys, the protection up front, everything matters. Everybody, you know, focuses on the kicker, which he obviously has to kick the ball through the uprights. But you know, the best team is who wins on game day, and so those guys did a great job being great teammates and doing their job and allowing us that opportunity to be able to get that field goal. So, just proud of our guys, and just be able to show some grit and fight. And that's a huge thing. So, but just also want to recognize our players of the game. You know, we had Caleb Murphy, offensive player of the game, and that's something our staff felt strongly about. And just because he was not expected to play like he did in terms of the reps, but with Carp going down during warm-ups and being able to allow him to play all the snaps on offense, and did a great job. So, really proud of him. And defensively, you know, Aaron Casey was our defensive player of the game. Just really proud of his progress and just development as a player and as a person. We already talked about him last week, but just played his best football game, I believe, since he's been here. Cam Jones continues to play at a high level and very productive. Again, a huge takeaway that he caused, but just felt like that Aaron had earned that, and I think Cam was the first one to congratulate him. So just that kind of a team we've got, which is awesome. And then special teams with Charles Campbell, but also Jalen Williams was also the co-special teams player of the game with a key block of their field goal in overtime, which was massive. And then he also was the one that downed the ball on the 2-yard line to pin him down in exchange of playing very good complementary football. We were able to get him on the 2-yard line, force him to punt inside the 5, and then going down and scoring a touchdown. So he was a huge part of that, and then also just his special teams play in general on all those were huge. So just proud of those guys for competing at a high level, and got to keep getting better. We all know that, but it's huge to be able to be resilient in late games, to be able to play our best football when it counts the most. Really excited about this opportunity this week with Cincinnati. Coach Fickle's done a tremendous job. Just really impressive what they built there, and playing a playoff team that at home. So great challenge, great opportunity for us to be able to be on the road for our first road game of the season, and just impressive what they've done. They got a lot of guys back on offense, but a lot of new faces on defense, but still playing at a very high level. Really good system, good scheme they have. Their players have been developed, you can tell. So the guys stepping in there, got some transfers and stepping in as well, and making a lot of plays for them. So it's just a very, very good football team, and saw that when we went and played Arkansas, and so film is very obvious. So really have to play our best football, have to play a complete game from start to finish, and beyond whatever it takes. So appreciate that. Any questions?
Talking about Caleb Murphy, I think there was like a video of him post-game. He looked pretty emotional. Just, I mean, on the one hand, what does it mean for him being from generally this area, which doesn't produce a ton of, particularly where he's from, I think a ton of Big Ten level talent. And on the other hand, how does it elevate an offense, whether it's on the field in the moment or when you're able to kind of go back and review it later, that a guy steps in so late notice like that and plays like he did?
Yeah, I think it's just a huge thing, and as you saw, his emotional response was very genuine and real, and it means so much to him to be part of this team, be a football player here in Indiana, being from so close and representing his whole community, and just the pride he has in being from there, and being able to just come here and just work his tail off to get to in this position, move positions, from defensive line to offensive line, and he was the third string center, a few weeks ago, and then with Cam, going down, and then obviously with the situation that happened on game day, and that was nothing that anybody expected. Matter of fact, I was kind of shocked to hear it, when we were in the locker room, they were getting ready to come out. So, but that's what you got to be ready to do. So we use that as an example. I talked to our whole team about that this morning. Just a few weeks ago, he's throwing the depth chart. Now he's playing every single snap and special teams, because he's a part of those as well. So just a great testament to him and how hard he's worked, how much he cares. And but you can win a lot of games with guys that are smart, tough, dependable, and have a high care factor. And it means something for him to put that jersey on and represent his whole community, and that's a pretty awesome thing.
It's just sticking on that. How did Zach hurt himself? What is his injury, and what's kind of his prognosis, and what's the situation with him?
Yeah, it was something in his hand. He's gonna. We're still getting evaluated, trying to figure out how long it would be. It's not going to be season-ending or anything like that, but it definitely is something we got to deal with. And so, and obviously since he's a center and snapping the football, so it is something with his hand that he's got to deal with. But not anything that's, like you said, super serious, but definitely for his position and what he does. Could be something we're going to have to make adjustments with. So not expected, freaky, I guess would be say freaky accident if that doesn't usually happen. I don't know if I've ever had this happen before in all my 30 years of that type of thing and that type of warm-up, because we just did the same thing we always do. So, but just it happened, and that's why you got depth, and that's why you develop guys. And so hopefully we'll know more here soon, getting him back with us. But yeah, just kind of a freak thing.
Hey, Coach. How did you find Caleb Murphy at a 1A school like West Washington? How did that happen?
Yeah, he came to camp, and he was a guy that we had to project, positionally. I think we always felt like that he's a kind of a jumbo guy. We talk about jumbo defensive end. Those big guys could play tight end. He played offensive tackle for them. He was a high school wrestler. Actually started his whole wrestling. He's one of those schools where they didn't have wrestling, and he's the one that kind of got it all started, which is crazy, and then did really well, So yeah, you have it's a little bit of a tougher evaluation because of an interior guy or a guy on line of scrimmage playing at that size of a school. Sometimes it's hard to tell, where he's at, but he comes to camp, and we liked what we saw from him. Weren't exactly sure what he was going to be yet, but that planted the seeds. And I met with him and his family in my office, and I just kind of knew, we didn't offer him right away, but I just knew he was what we're looking for, just the passion, the toughness, the fight. You just talk to his high school coaches and the people there in his community, and which we do, and you just had, those internal qualities of just character and discipline and the high care factor. You kind of thought that's what you're going to get from him when he came here because it meant so much to him. He got emotional in my office, about how much he wanted to be here and play here. And so, but I didn't give him a scholarship right away after those first meetings, but kind of let the weeks go by and actually had him at another camp. He went to a camp up in the Chicago area, and we had our coaches there, and so had to take a second peek at him, and so we offered him in that exchange there. So, but I think it was just more of a gut feel that he's our kind of guy. And like I said, we started him on defense, and I think that's probably where, he would have preferred to play when he first got here, which we always had those conversations. But he's always been like, Coach, I'll play wherever you want, whatever you want me to do. And so that kind of guy, but he always kind of felt like, he's a good athlete, that the center position kind of you thought would be a good projection for him one day, and just like I said, the smart, tough, dependable guy that position demands. Really kind of fits his personality. And if you're talking about our staff, it's just like, and it was unanimous that he would be the player of the game. Everybody loves him. You just can't question his passion for this program and this university. And so that's, it's just neat to see guys like that, be rewarded for their perseverance, even though he's still young, and so, but I wasn't surprised that he played so well because he's going to give you everything he's got for 60 minutes and beyond.
Looked like Western Kentucky got a long touchdown in the first half off of blown coverage in the defensive backfield, and it looked like you had a pretty passionate response after that play. What was your message to them, and how did you see them respond in the second half? Yeah, so just a little frustrated with that question, but just didn't communicate with what we had called, and so I had guys, they said they thought they saw one signal, and so we had some guys playing one coverage, other guys playing another. And so that was frustrating. But at the same time, it was just, we got to just calm down, and they're going to go fast, and just make sure you know the call. And if we're all 11 guys are playing the same call, then good things happen. If half are playing one call, half are playing the other, that's not usually a pretty good, formula for success. So, but yeah, they did some, again, you watch film, that's what they do. You get people in those situations and they run, they switch things up and they make you have to react to those kind of things. So, but the tempo is really a big challenge, even though we see it all the time and it's still, you got to defend it. And so, but I didn't think we didn't communicate as well, even on that, the second touchdown, the trick play that they ran was just like, just poor communication. I could see it. I'm trying to scream and yell to get them to see it. And they should have because of the way they have to align to run that. So just didn't think that was really at a high enough level without question. So just got to get it, and we try to get those things cleaned up and get it fixed throughout the game and let our guys play fast.
And our congratulations to Greg Schiano. It was a hard-fought win over Temple. Certainly not any type of offensive explosion, but a win is a win, and that's all Rutgers has done this year in making Schiano the winningest head coach in Rutgers history during his second go-round on the Banks. Now it is time to continue to build on what they have done in the non-conference against conference competition. It's at home this weekend in FS1 game against Iowa. As good as the Rutgers defense has been this year, this could be a solid matchup against an Iowa offense that has certainly struggled at times. For more on that matchup, we head to Piscataway and listen in to Greg Schiano's weekly press conference.
Hey, fellas. Thanks for coming out. Big home game this week. Open up Big Ten play, so try to answer anything I can.
Any update on Gavin?
Yeah, Gavin will be a game time decision. We'll know as the week goes on.
When you look at that Iowa defense, what stands out?
Very fundamentally sound. They know exactly what they want to do. Very physical. Typical Iowa defense.
Greg, you guys are at 19 consecutive home losses in Big Ten play. If it's not a record, it's up there as one of the longest streaks. I think you said at the end of last year that you would take a look at the discrepancy there between home and away in Big Ten play. Did you do any of that study in the offseason? And have you been able to find one thing that's been a struggle for you guys at home in Big Ten play?
No. I mean, we did look at it. I can't tell you that I know there's any one thing. We'll keep looking at it.
Follow-up, how big would a win be to kind of just get that streak off your back, or is that something that you guys don't even think about?
No, would just take every game one game at a time. We're trying to be 1-0 at the end of this week. So what's happened in the past, I think when people do that, you put yourself in a bad position. Start looking back or looking forward. We're just here to chop the moment.
The offense overall this year, I think you guys have ran it on first down 80% of the time. Is there any concern that it's kind of becoming a little bit predictable at all, or?
Not a concern. No, I mean, I'm good. We have to execute a little bit better.
It's just, what were some of those things you saw offensively that you'd like to fix?
Well, there's several. I think some things happened that were, part of it was technical, part of it was schematic. And when I say technical, I mean technique. And part of it was cultural, right? So throw all three things together and you had kind of a perfect storm. But we're moving, we're learning from it, and we're moving forward. And we need to, because we have an opponent that's as stout a defense as there is in the country.
You passed Frank Burns for that record. I know you talked about it after the game, but those first couple of years when you were building the first time around, how tough was it to win with everything that was going on and what you walked into? Is there anything you can say about that time?
Yeah, that was a tough stretch. The good thing, when you're young, you don't know what you don't know. Because if I knew what I knew, I don't know if I would have stuck it out. But you don't know what you don't know, and you just go hard as you can. And that's what we did as a staff and as a program. And fortunately, we were able to get over the hump. But yeah, that was some tough sledding back then, real tough.
Like it's your 3-0, but just the penalties these last few games, is this just early season mistakes that guys are making, or is there kind of a larger concern that's going to, hurt you once Big Ten play starts?
Well, there's always a concern. As I've told you guys, those who've been around for as long as I have, the two old men in the room, Steve. I don't ever want to be number one in least penalized, because I don't think you're trying hard enough if you do that. But I don't want to be down in the bottom either. Somewhere in the, obviously in the top half, but maybe more towards the top quartile. We have too many penalties. Now, when you look at it, some of them are young players that haven't played, and some of them are true freshmen that haven't played. You learn. The whole thing that as I said to you last week, all of us, you're told don't touch the stove because it's hot, you're going to get burned, but sometimes you got to touch it. Hopefully that we run out of those stove moments and we start cleaning things up.
I got a two-parter for you. First, what's your confidence level right now in Sean?
As high as it could be. Yeah, we got the right guy to be our offensive coordinator.
And just secondly, is there a moment when you get more involved in the offense if it continues to struggle? Has that happened yet?
As a head coach, when I first started as a head coach, like I said, I didn't know what I didn't know. And then later on, I became the defensive coordinator as the head coach and was very involved. At this stage in my coaching career, I'm the head coach. So I oversee the offense, the defense, and the kicking game. But I'm not running any of the three. I know I'm very, very confident in Sean and our offensive staff. As I told you at the beginning of the year, this is a young team in many ways. And some of it is chronologically young, some of it is Rutgers young, right? But if you can't have it both ways. If you truly believe the strength of your program is your culture, and then you bring people into your program that may not be chronologically young but are young to Rutgers, then we got to give it a little time. And when you take over the program in the way we did, there's some things that are not quick fixes. And offensive line play is not a quick fix. We're getting better. But take that and have a young quarterback, two young quarterbacks, that neither one have played. Unfortunately, our veteran quarterback was injured. Those are all things that factor in. I know this, that we're getting better. Saturday was a tough outing, but we're getting better. I see it every day, and I'm confident that the path we're going on is going to get us where we need to be. what I'm proud of is that our team found a way to win 3 weeks in a row. And that's very important. Right? And I said it after the game, but, you know, when you don't play your best game and you still find a way to win, that's something to be said for your guys, for your teammate, for your team, for your coaches, for everybody. So I know exactly the challenge that's ahead of us this week. And if we play anywhere close to the way we played offensively this week, it'll be a lot worse. And so we all know we have to improve, and but I think that improvement will come.
Greg, before the season, you said you expected Aaron Lewis to make a big jump, 11 tackles on Saturday. Are you seeing that?
I didn't hear your question. I'm sorry.
Aaron Lewis, you said you expected him to make a big jump before the season, 11 tackles on Saturday. Are you seeing that now?
Yeah, I've seen it. You know, I think he's made kind of a steady climb. Aaron is a very, very good football player. He's explosive. He can make plays. So we need him to do that, and he's doing what we need him to do.
You mentioned the offensive line. I mean, what do you feel like is kind of the biggest improvement that they need to make right now for you guys to get the offense overall closer to where it really needs to be?
Yeah, you know, I wish it was one thing. You know, that would be an easier fix. But I do think there is some commonality on some of the things, right? We need to just continue to get better at what we do technique-wise. And that may sound like, well, why don't you just do it? Because there's a lot going on. And then there's this other thing, this guy on the other side that's trying to kick your rear end in, you know. So there's a lot to get down for a group of guys that haven't played together. But we're going to be okay. Yeah, I'm confident on that.
Coach, can you talk about the progress that Noah Vedril's making in his injury return and where he is at the moment?
Yeah, he's going to be a game time decision as well. So, you know, it's kind of unsettling. You have two quarterbacks that are game time decisions. You know, thank goodness Evan is healthy. And, you know, we'll just prepare with as I said after the game Saturday, we will prepare for whoever we have that the doctors tell us are going to be able to play.
Those can go. Is there a non-scholarship quarterback that would be on the depth chart?
Mm-hmm. Are they going to be on the depth chart? A handout? No, but yeah, we have one for sure.
Who would that be?
I'm not going to get into that. Yeah.
Greg, you haven't really benefited from the expanded stadium in a meaningful way since you've been back with COVID and the different situations. Is this kind of night what you had in mind when you pushed for that, the idea that this could be a 50,000 plus atmosphere, real college football atmosphere?
Without a doubt, Steve. And I think also as we push, and I say we, Bob Mulcahy and I, and as you know, Steve, you know, we're not in the Big Ten without Bob Mulcahy pushing to get this stadium built. And together, you know, our partnership, I think, allowed that to happen. And getting into the Big Ten, that's the vision I had, is that we expand the stadium, we get into the Big Ten, and we have games like this that sell-out crowd, fans that are rabid, and a great opponent coming to town, and most of all, Rutgers stepping up and playing the way that we all want Rutgers to play. And that's why you do this. That's why I came back, to put us in this position and to win these games. Are we ready? Well, who knows? We're going to find out. Again, I go back. At the beginning of the year, I told you where I knew we were, and I told you it was going to be a work in progress. Iowa's a different program. They're an established Big Ten program. Coach Ferentz is certainly, you know, the dean of the league, but he's one of the best coaches in America, period. And his program continually, there's consistency year in, year out. And you know exactly what you're going to get. They play very hard. They're physical. They're technically sound. So it's a great challenge for our guys, a great challenge for our coaching staff. And you put all that together and you throw it in this Saturday night, everybody wearing red to the game and packing the place. That's what college football is all about. Thank you, guys. See you Saturday.
Not great to have quarterback questions when facing one of the best defenses in the country, but that's the situation this week for Rutgers. Both Gavin Wimsatt and Noah Vedral, game-time decisions. Evan Simon, the only quarterback right now that Greg Schiano can say with certainty is good to go on Saturday night, would like to have the option of going to one of those other two men if that is a possibility. So as Rutgers comes off an important win, gets set for conference play, Purdue comes off a really disappointing loss. Second time this year that the Boilers have lost a game by 4 points or fewer, gave up a late touchdown in the final minute to Syracuse to lose on the road to the Orange 32-29. Because of that week 1 conference game, Purdue will be out of conference again this coming weekend, hosting Florida Atlantic. It is a must-get-well game for Jeff Brohm and the Boilers as we take you now to West Lafayette.
Well, a lot to learn from the last game. So before we can move on to Florida Atlantic, obviously we need to clean up a lot of things with our football team, and that's kind of what this process has been since the last game. It was a long day yesterday. Without question, penalties are hurting us, and you cannot win football games with the penalties that we're getting. So that has to get fixed. That starts with me. I have to make sure that happens, and we all need to do a better job, including myself, with not making sure that we win the penalty battle. Also, we want to learn to keep our mouths shut and just play football and play as hard as we can, play together, play as a unit, and let the pieces fall where they may. So those are things that we need to work hard to get better at. Football is a tough physical, emotional game, and we got to make sure we control our emotions at all times, no matter what's going on. We took a lot of time yesterday as a team, and I sat down in front of the whole team and staff, and we watched all of our penalties throughout the season, identified them, talked about them, talked about what happened. It wasn't a matter whether we agreed with it or not. It was a matter of how can we make sure this doesn't happen again. The 15-yard penalties, the unsportsmanlike penalties, or the late hit penalties are costing us, and then, quite honestly, a lot of defensive holding and pass interference calls are hurting us quite a bit, and they have in 2 key pivotal games. So we've got to, as coaches, look at exactly what we're teaching and make sure that we may have to alter and adjust what we're teaching to make sure that we're not getting those calls, because we had 2 interceptions that we could have had that were critical that we didn't get. We had a 3rd and 10 on the last drive that we got called for a defensive holding the secondary away from the ball, which, whether I agreed with it or our players did or not, it's called. And those things are costly. So just a lot of identifying the issues, the problems, and making sure we do our part to get that fixed. As I told our team, if you look at our team last year, we averaged 4.4 penalties a game for 43 yards a game, and that's really good. And that's probably why we won 9 games. Pure and simple, that right there. Against Penn State, we had 9 penalties for 92 yards. Against Syracuse, 13 for 138. So against good football teams like Penn State and Syracuse on the road, you're not going to win those games. So those are the main things that we've got to work on, make sure it doesn't happen. And that starts with me. So I got to do a better job, much better job. And then now it's on to the next game. So we've got, from here on out, we've got tough opponents every week. Starts with Florida Atlantic, who's athletic, has played a lot of football. And it's going to be a tough battle and a tough contest that we have to improve this week at all these small things that mean a lot, and make sure we're continuing to get better as a team. So that's going to be the focus this week, and we're looking forward to, getting back on the game field on Saturday.
Yeah, Coach, obviously it's going to be your last non-conference game early on this season. Just, I guess, what do you need to see from the team? Obviously, you mentioned fixing up penalties, but I guess including that, what else do you kind of need to see from this team this upcoming week to be able to head into the rest of your Big Ten schedule feeling good about it?
Well, I like the fight of our team. We've been competing in every game. We've had the lead, and we found a way to fight for the lead and come back in the fourth quarter, which shows the team wants to win and means something to them, and they have a lot of fight. So those are all positives. Now we have to figure out ways to execute better and make sure we're more efficient while we're cleaning up all those things. So that'll be the main focus.
After this week, you're going to be faced with a tough schedule. 3 of the next 4 after this week are going to be on the road. Just how much are you going to be able to reflect on this past week against Syracuse as you kind of prepare for that heading into the rest of the season?
Well, like I said, we know every game's going to be tough, and it starts with this week. This will be a tough opponent, and if we don't do these things I've talked about, we're not going to win the football game. That's how football works nowadays. So, but we have to be man enough to make sure we communicate and talk about it, and people understand what the issues are and how it needs to be fixed. So, right now, the complete focus is on those things and getting ready for Florida Atlantic, who has really good athletes and good players, and they play good football teams. So we're going to have to play well.
Early in the week, can you just give an update on the status of Brock Thompson, King Daru? I guess the protocol for them entering this week, trying to get them back onto the field.
Well, we're doing everything we can to get him back healthy. Brock, I'm probably doubtful, I guess, but I don't know. We'll see where that goes. King, we'll see how he progresses. So really those two are too early to tell. But you know, for guys that have been injured, I'm not optimistic until they prove to me that they can play, because you really can't, you know, at this level, not practice very much and play well. And that's what we need to make sure we do, is our guys get on the practice field and practice.
Jeff, did you send any plays into the Big Ten office this week to have them look at?
Yes, and there's been communication with me on multiple things with the head of officials. So, you know, yes.
And just your message to the team coming out of that game, 1-2. I know you want to stay positive. So, what do you tell the team? I guess at FAU. I know you don't want to get beyond this weekend, but then you still have 8 Big Ten games left, right?
Well, that's how every year is. We've had a bunch of years here where your backs are against the wall and you got to find a way to win football games, and that's how it's really going to be every year. I mean, to think that we're going to be able to walk through teams ever is not going to happen. You know, there's good football teams across the country, definitely in our conference, and if we don't play well and efficient and eliminate the issues we've had, we're not going to win any game. That's how football works, and our guys understand that. At the same time, if you're able to improve each week and get better at these things, anything can happen. So you just got to fight through it. You know, it's a tough gauntlet of teams every week, and you've got to find ways to improve and get guys healthy and play sound, fundamental football and figure out a way to win the fourth quarter. And through 3 games, in the 2 losses, we've had our chances to win. We didn't close and finish the game.
Florida Atlantic, you coached there in 2009 under Howard Schnellenberger. Just talk about what Coach Schnellenberger meant to you, Jeff. I know he signed you out of high school in 1989, and sure has had a big hand in shaping you, not just as a player, but as a coach. Just talk about what he meant.
Well, I think he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. I definitely wish they would put him in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to do that. He's took a lot of programs that weren't doing well, including Miami, and brought him to prominence. And it's because of his leadership, his work ethic. He was a football guy, a true football guy. He worked under Paul Bear Bryant, and that's how he ran his practices. And you know, won a lot of football games, a lot of places. You know, was schooled under Coach Bryant, and at the University of Alabama. Was an offensive coordinator for the Dolphins, the only undefeated season in NFL history. So he was under the Don Shula tree. And then, of course, you know, he took Miami to a national championship when no one thought that could happen. And then, of course, he helped rebuild the Louisville football program, and he helped start up the Florida Atlantic football program from nothing. And he just knows how to run a program. He knows how to do it the right way. With him, you got no nonsense. It was, you know, he was a football guy that loved the game. He was brash. He wasn't scared to tell you what was going to happen. He knew how to build a team. He knew how to motivate a team. You know, to the public eye, he may have said some outlandish things about on the collision course with the national championship, all those things. But if you played for him, when you took the field, doesn't matter who you played, after you listened to him talk and after you listened to him talk to the public and say those things, you actually believe you could do it. So you found yourself able to win more games than you probably should because you played with confidence and you didn't back down. So those are the main things. He treated me great as a player and a coach. You know, him and his family were really good people, and they meant a lot to me. So definitely, you know, any time I coach, you know, I think of a lot of things that he did and how and why he did it, and try to do the best I can to emulate that.
I know you don't.
That's just a sample of Jeff Brohm, and a lot of time spent talking about penalties, and here's why. 7 for 90 yards in the fourth quarter alone against Syracuse, and in 3 games so far this season, the Boilermakers have been penalized 25 times for 220 yards. Before finishing his press conference, Brohm was asked specifically about a couple of unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Flags that were thrown on Purdue late in that game proved critical in that loss to Syracuse.
Last week again, did you think Payne merited that unsportsmanlike call, and you think you did too? I guess I'm still really not sure what you did and what
Well,
Payne
if you're
did.
asking my opinion, no, I don't think any were those two were merited at all. And as you look at the film, we get a 15-yard penalty on an extra point with 50 seconds left in the game. When as you look at the film shows an extra point, a slight push of the other player into Payne, and then both guys start jawing at each other, helmet to helmet. Not extensive, but it's jawing for maybe 5 seconds, and then you see them start to separate on film, and then the film cuts off. At the time, the referee was moving that way, but hadn't thrown a flag. I assume he threw a flag after. So at the time, I didn't know what the flag was for. I was trying to find out what can you explain the call? I mean, we had a lull in action. We just had an extra point. There's a commercial break. We haven't kicked off yet. So you would think someone would come explain the call to me. So anyway, as I asked Payne, he goes, "Coach, I didn't touch him. The guy pushed me a little bit, and then we jawed a little bit." And so I had to take him for his word, but I was trying to find out from the referee, hey, what can you explain the call? What made you call this call? Did he say something that was just really, really bad? That's what maybe I thought. Did he use some language that was just totally because from what I saw and what I was told, and so as I'm trying to wave the official who's in the very back end zone, the head referee, to come talk to me. Yeah, I probably was a couple yards on the field, but it was a break in action. The game wasn't going on, and then all of a sudden I see a flag thrown from down the sideline. Guy looked like he was close to the end zone, and I just assumed it was on me, even though there's no way that, I mean, I've done way worse than that. And to me, to make 2 15-yard penalty calls at that juncture, do I agree with it? No, not at all. Now, with that said, it happened. So it's my fault. It's Payne's fault. So we have to take responsibility for it. We have to be accountable for it. We have to make sure it never happens again. That was addressed with the team. And I apologize to the team for that flag and got to make sure that never happens again. So we have to adjust and make sure that and we talked about this as a team as well. Like the chatter has to stop. It has to stop in practice. You being able to play with your own personality to a certain degree and let guys play. No, you have to keep your mouth shut. You got to keep your mouth shut and play football. You got to limit any celebrations. You can congratulate your teammates on plays. No, you can't be celebrating either. We cannot get any more 15-yard penalties, including myself, including sideline warnings and on the field, those type of things. So we just have to be really, really by the book and keep our mouths shut and coach and play football.
Just about 3 weeks ago, this is not where Pat Fitzgerald expected his Northwestern team to be, starting the year with that historic win in Ireland over Nebraska, dramatic 31-28 victory. But then after a bye week, the momentum apparently stayed overseas. Losses first to Duke and then this past weekend to Southern Illinois. Got to get right back at it this weekend. Miami at home Saturday. You can see it right here on Big Ten Network before getting back into conference play the 1st of October against Penn State. Take you down the road to Evanston. Here is Northwestern head coach Pat Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Sorry about that. Forgot we're after 12 o'clock. So good afternoon, and thanks for being with us. Thanks for covering the squad. I want to welcome our students back. We start class tomorrow, and it's been great driving around campus, and then also obviously Saturday, seeing all the students. It was awesome and greatly appreciate it, and look forward to seeing them again here this Saturday night at 6:30. I want to congratulate Ryan Holinsky. He was named to the All-State Good Works team this morning. It's only recognizes 11 FBS players. A couple of years ago, I had the privilege of being recognized to be on this team. Outstanding contributions to their communities and their environment. So fired up for Ryan. He's our only Big Ten conference representative. So congratulations to him. Not a surprise. He's incredibly giving of his time, and we could probably have multiple guys that could be up for that, but congratulations to him. And then this week is the American Football Coaches Association Coach to Cure game. And across the country, you'll see coaches wearing Coach to Cure patches to raise awareness and hopefully funds to help find a cure for this terrible disease of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. We've had some great fans of ours come out and be a part of practices in the past and game day. Some young men, and this terrible disease only affects young men, become a part of our football family. And, we as a program look forward to helping out, and it's a proud AFCA member, hoping to raise awareness for Duchenne and a cure that hopefully will come. Looking back, we had no players of the week on offense or defense. Special teams player of the week was Ray Nairo. This is his second time of the year that he's done that. Our 3 practice players on offense, CJ Johnson, defensively, Joe DeHaan, and on special teams, Devin Turner. Those 3 guys gave a great look. Obviously disappointed to say the least in the outcome of the game, but like I told the squad, we're probably, you look at our first 3 games, I would categorize this as a very inconsistent football team that ultimately is my responsibility. Inconsistent in execution, inconsistent in the turnover ratio. We've made some critical errors in some critical times. But we're probably 3 or 4 plays away from being 0-3, and probably 3 or 4 more plays and being 3-0. And that's the great thing about football. You got to be consistent. And when you're not, you got to look at, a lot of things. Number one, our schematics. And I think we adjusted well in all games, but and I thought we started faster on Saturday, but we obviously gave a couple of things up. And then, we've beat ourselves with the turnover ratio, limiting your opportunities. It's scary to me right now. You think we gave away really 6 possessions of momentum in the second half. But 5, but 3 of which were obvious. The 2 turnovers and the 4th down that we didn't convert. So those are really damaging when you're trying to seize momentum and capitalize on some things. And I thought at times our defense did a great job, especially with being on a short field and only giving up 7 points, but that ended up being the 7-point difference. So we've got to play cleaner as a team. We've got to be more consistent. Ultimately, that's my responsibility. And we got to work on it right away this morning. Show the guys what happened, what we're going to do to fix it. And attitude was great. Another huge challenge. I think, top to bottom, I think the Red Hawks are as good of a team as we've played. Coach Martin's been there now a number of years. His systems are in place. They've had some staff turnover, but there's been a high level of consistency with the way that they've played. They were up 17-7 on a very good Cincinnati team over the weekend. And that was a very impressive start out the gate, 10-0, very physical team. James Patton, a very close friend of mine, coaches their offensive line, and his DNA is all over that group. Their downhill run team, RPO, their defense is set up to stop the RPO, and they're very physical in their front 7. I was very impressed with John Saunders' play against Cincinnati. He was all over the field. Their corner, watching the tape, incredibly impressive. Their inside backers are awesome to watch. I think there's a reason why they were picked to win their division in the MAC. They're a complete team. They've added some very impressive pieces. So we're gonna have our hands full, but we got to focus on us. We got to get better here this week and play our cleanest, most consistent game of the year. So with that, I'll open it up and hopefully answer any and all questions that you may have.
Reminder, if you have a question, please message Athletic Communications in the chat. First question for Andrew Seligman.
Hey, Pat. Just wondering, what do you make of how the Big Ten has fared as a conference in general in the non-conference part of the schedule, and especially what happened this past weekend with some of the losses and some of the narrow escapes?
Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, I'd love to be able to tell you I've seen all of my brethren here in the Big Ten. I've got 99 problems and everybody else's is not one. It's not a line that I use. I use that frequently, I guess. So I need to focus on us. Again, I think it's early in the year. You've got different things that happen without a preseason, and major college football, every week's kind of its own entity. And you got to find a way to get your team to peak on game day. And then, momentum happens. I had a chance to watch a couple of games after I got home, I got a chance to sprint out and watch Loyola play, we'll catch the second half. But, it was just, again, like us, more teams are beating themselves than are winning games. And I think that is what I've seen of the games that I've watched. And usually the teams that keep grinding and improve, it kind of starts to be corrected. And that's what our hope is that we'll be able to do here.
John Vogt.
Yeah, hi, Coach. You mentioned Ryan winning the AFCA award this morning. Could you just speak a little bit more about the leadership he shows every day and how he gives back to the community?
Yeah, Ryan's spectacular when it comes to giving back to the community. From Helinski's Hope, all the way through, he interacts with every young person that he meets. He's just got a incredibly dynamic personality. He's incredibly giving. And you can see that it's kind of written all over his DNA. And we're just really proud of him. A young man that, obviously was a newcomer in our program a year ago, and to see how he's grown, his confidence has grown. He's a perfect fit for that recognition, and couldn't be more proud of Ryan.
Bradley Locker.
Hey, Coach, in light of the injuries that you guys had in the secondary, obviously no Coco again, no Cam Mitchell, no AJ Hampton, just wondering how you go about balancing those when you're evaluating the performance of the secondary, and just what kind of takeaways you had from that unit, obviously, as you guys are still banged up going forward.
Yeah, well, next man up mentality. That's the way it's been since my entire career here. You don't worry about anything other than that. And, unfortunately, through injuries becomes another man's opportunity. And I thought at times there was some really good play, and I thought at times there was some inconsistent play. And that's kind of indicative of our whole team. And that group will learn. It's very talented. It's very hungry to improve. And it's not just them, right? I mean, I think it's just, you look at that entire side of the ball right now, that group is learning and growing, and, we love them, and that group's going to stick together. I think there's been flashes of some really good defensive play, and we've just got to get to a consistent level, all three phases of the defense, fundamentally tackling, and then obviously takeaways and winning at level 3. So, I mean, those are the areas that we've got to continue to work relentlessly to improve. And I know the guys will, and I know the staff will.
John Riker.
Hey, Coach. John Riker, Daily Northwestern. Sidestepping the football questions a little bit, field hockey's been on a tear, top team in the country, 8-0. What have you learned from being a coach from Coach Tracy over there?
Yeah, John, I mean, first of all, Coach Fuchs and I are very close. Love her dearly. She's, I get a chance, when we're up here grinding, we get a chance to look right out and, see those women get after it. And it's so much fun to watch them, to say the least. I think number one, she's the greatest player of all time. I mean, and maybe somebody can argue with me about that, but I just think her confidence in her teaching and the way that we go about playing, I just think she's a grinder, and that's what you see when you watch her team. They grind. They've got just a great mindset, and then they've got some really positive momentum going on right now. So it's kind of fun. You got to earn that, and they've earned it, and that's something that we hope to be able to gain with this year's squad with us. It's amazing how momentum can be just such a great thing that builds upon itself, and just honored to be her friend, honored to be her colleague, and so inspired by the success that her team has had, and by watching her lead. So it's she's a special person and a great coach and a great friend.
Thank you.
Louis Vicaire.
That would be the mute button again, Louis.
Sorry about that. I thought I hit it.
Constantly teaching and coaching here, Louis. Doesn't stop with you, my friend.
I'm working for that consistency you always talk about. Yeah. So, looking a little bigger picture here, you've turned around teams after slow starts to the season and bad early season losses before, right? And in 2016, you were 0-2 and wound up winning the Pinstripe Bowl. 2018, 1-3 and won the West. So what kind of similarities or differences do you see, like when you compare this team to those, and what kind of lessons that you learned those seasons that you can apply here and try to right the ship?
Yeah, well, the ship isn't not right. All right. So the ship is fine. I'll be clear with that. We haven't won a couple of games. So there's great belief and confidence, I think, for number one, from our coaching staff and our players. We have great confidence in these guys that they're going to work their tails off to continue to improve. That's what those teams did that I had the privilege of coaching in the past. They didn't listen to noise. They didn't listen to outside things. They just stayed very focused. They kept working diligently to improve the things we could control. We won a lot of hard-fought battles in those years. And we had a lot of guys step up in different roles. And so there's a ton of lessons, and I'll share a lot of those,
You just heard him say it. The ship is fine. I'll be clear with that. There's great belief and confidence. Fitzgerald saying great teams don't listen to the outside noise and always have guys that step up. He'll look for his team to do that this week against Miami.